Chuck has time to walk 20K steps a day.
We all do. Actually, we all do. What we don't have, though, recreational activity. Activity that is recreation. We've lost that, and instead we have a cultural bias, cultural perception. Anything active is work, and you can hear it in what she says right here.
20K steps a day, that will become a full-time job.
Well, if you consider activity work, of course nobody has time for it. 8 hours sleep, 8 hours work, 8 hours recreation and other things. That's supposed to be the breakdown. Well, look at this. This is a weekly and daily breakdown of how much screen time the average American gets. You see there, TV totals up to over 8 hours a day sitting on our ass in front of a screen. Now, some of this could be unavoidable because we all have desk jobs. We're all looking at a computer at work now. But look at this part that's purely about recreation. Just look at hours of TV. 4.5 hours a day sitting on our ass looking at the boob tube. Now, let's be honest. If we're adding in the scrolling on TikTok like you're doing right now, app, web, smartphone, almost 2.5 hours, that's 6, that's practically 7 hours already. Now we still feel overworked, but you can't say that we don't have the time for something else. We don't have the time for other kinds of recreations. We used to not have these screens, remember? And before we had these screens, we did recreation. We got our 8, 8, and 8. When you're talking about steps, it's about getting 20,000 steps a day, being that active. Just as a point of reference, Americans are sedentary to get around 3,000 or 4,000 steps a day. As she acknowledges,
the health benefits of steps, research currently shows, caps out at just under 9,000 steps a day.
Now we can get into the weeds and debate that point because the health value still increases after that 9,000. But that's an inflection point. You do get more benefits, but the benefits attenuate as far as health is concerned. But they do not attenuate as far as the benefits for energy balance is concerned. And that's what I use the 20,000 steps for, to maintain my energy balance. AKA, it's so I can eat and not be hungry all the time and actually enjoy food. But the bottom line for this discussion, we're not getting that 9,000. We're getting half that. So of course we're all sick. And that's because we have a stupid cultural idea in our head that this is the rest and recreation and the type of rest and recreation that we need, to revitalize our batteries, recharge our batteries, to make up for all this hard work we're doing. When this hard work we're doing isn't hard work at all. It's not physical labor. It's just stress. We're just stressing ourselves out. But then what do? Let's be honest. We go on TikTok. We get all riled up about a bunch of political stuff. We see about all these horrible things that are happening all over the world. We watch the news that's just telling us that life sucks, stressing us out further. And then maybe we binge watch, a couple television shows whilst our bodies rot from indolence. Well, what did we used to do before we had all these screens? I got news for you. It wasn't all just working in the fields or working in the factories. We used to have active fun. And so what's the quality of that active fun? What's the good of it? I encourage you to Google up this publication, the Compendium of Physical Activities. It rates various activities by an MET value, metabolic equivalent of task. It's a rating of the relative metabolic value of different types of activities. Different types of activities, they got the same score, they got the same value. Rucking with a backpack, 7. Just walking around in a city, 3.5. Here's the treadmill equivalence. And we look at that and we immediately reject it because we think that's all that activity is. It's this hamster wheel walking type of activity that's the equivalent of work. But that is simply not true. And that is why we have the time for it. You go out bowling, it's the same thing. You play golf, you play miniature golf, it's the same thing. You got a backyard, you set up some bocce, and you have a couple of drinks and you play with your friends, it's the same thing. Shuffleboard, you have a backyard, you have a garden, you take up gardening as a hobby. You go out dancing. Human beings used to do this. They used to go out dancing. You take your wife out and you move to some music. You take your girlfriend out on a date. This creator there herself makes an exception for mothers.
Unless you have toddlers that you are chasing after. Honestly, doing that all damn day, yes, it's your job.
And unintentionally, with that statement, she's demonstrating the problem that I'm talking about. We are so anti-activity now. We even go so far as to say playing with our own children is work and does not count as fun. We have this dumb idea in our head that the only way we could ever relax and enjoy ourselves is to sit on our ass staring like a fucking zombie at a screen for over 4 hours a day, 7 hours a day, and then, like dumbasses, think we have to make up for it by starving ourselves because we're not using any energy. We gotta stop with that. This was me last Saturday. This was a walk in the park. This was 1 hour worth of that. A 1 hour doom scroll on TikTok. 2 30-minute episodes of a snarky sitcom. 1 episode of a 6-episode binge of Game of Thrones. A 1 hour news broadcast that just pissed me off and made me feel like the world was a horrible place and what am I doing living in it? Or an afternoon touching grass, breathing in the oxygen from trees, glad to be alive, and doing what I need to do to keep it that way at the same time. We gotta change our attitude about this. We gotta wake up and we gotta realize that's not work. That is. And now I finished my walk to work and I gotta get back to work. See you guys.